Do business. Act business.
Government and the governed is a relationship that must always be symbiotic. It must also be mutually beneficial. And this way, it demands that the government is able to do what they need to do, because when the governed pay their taxes, it helps the government to be able to build the infrastructure that can ensure that we have an enabled environment in which businesses can thrive. Welcome to Business Matters. My name is Stephen Ipalobo Lawson. The tax to GDP ratio in Nigeria is quite low, and this is because we are still a mono-product economy. Until we begin to see the wisdom in expanding the tax net, we obviously will be facing the challenges that comes with multiple taxation. Let us have a business update.
Hey beautiful, your eyes, your smile are all begging me to take you home tonight. Now reading page 3.
Experience unlimited super-fast internet access from Entel 4G.
Entel. Live more.
It is our culture on Business Matters to invite a professional in a given field to help us explore the subject of the day. And certainly through that conversation, we gain insights that can help us to certainly invest well in our businesses and help us to be as profitable as we intend to be. Let's have our professionals segment. Thank you for staying tuned on Business Matters. Joining me in the studio to explore the topic multiple taxation and enabling business environment is a consumer tax expert who is a senior manager in the Tax Regulatory and People Services Division of KPMG. She has over 12 years experience leading teams to deliver sterling tax compliance and advisory services to multinational as well as national companies in the oil and gas industry in particular. She has very significant experience in tax compliance, leading negotiations with tax authorities while facilitating tax training programs and advising companies on tax planning and optimization. When she's not dealing with tax, she's definitely involved in giving back to the society, where she volunteers with Belleful Naija with EROMS, a CSR initiative that focuses on capacity building and poverty alleviation. She's also a professional who equips career professionals themselves in order for them to be able to perform better. She's a member of ICANN, as well as a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. Please help me make welcome Madam EDEMEME Oladiiji WUSU. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
It's good to have you.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Tax is one of the things a lot of us are so concerned about. As a matter of fact, I tell my producer that we can never have enough on tax conversation.
I agree.
Because we know we live in a country where the major stay of the economy is actually focused in an industry that you, as a matter of fact, prefer offer tax advisory to, which is the oil and gas.
Mm-hmm.
But in other climes, tax is a major source of revenue for the government, and the government cannot work in absentia of that, because you need those financial resources to be able to create an enabling environment, develop the infrastructure and all of that. But as a way of kicking up this particular interview, I'd just like to get an overview of the state of taxation in Nigeria as it is today.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. You were right when you said that tax is the new oil, because now the tax authorities are more aggressive, the government itself is more aggressive, because like you said, it has to run a government, it has to fund infrastructure and do all of that. And for all of that to happen, then it needs to raise funds, and the funds come majorly from tax. Now, over the years, we've seen a subpar contribution of tax to GDP. Last I checked, tax contribution to GDP was just about 6%.
It's true.
Yeah, which is really, really, really low.
Compared to other climes, I mean,
Yeah.
that's quite...
Exactly. So it begs the question, what exactly is the problem? What exactly is happening? Is it a situation where the citizens don't know that they're supposed to pay taxes? Is it a situation where the citizens don't see the need to pay taxes because they look around and they don't see what government is doing with their money? Because that's also really important. You need to build public trust. And the public needs to know that when I pay my taxes, I see the impact. Now, the tax policy document defines tax as a levy that is imposed on individuals or organizations, and you will not directly enjoy the service, but it's imposed on you. So they're saying you don't need to directly benefit from the tax that you pay, just go ahead and pay it. But really, it doesn't work that way for citizens. Because citizens tell you, I have people who I speak to about tax, and what they say to me is, I am my own local government.
Yes,
I provide my own borehole, I provide my own security, I provide my power, so why do I need to pay taxes? And so the tax compliance rate in Nigeria is still very, very low. We haven't even gotten to double digits. And for this to even change, then we need to talk about sensitizing the people on the need to pay tax. We also need to talk about sensitizing government on the need to do what it is that they say they will do with public funds. So I think it's a two-way relationship.
It's a two-way relationship.
Yeah.
Like I always say, true love is actually a two-way relationship, and this love affair between those in government and those that are governed must always have to put that into cognizance. Because you had mentioned the issue with tax compliance. Some of the people oftentimes believe that why we have very, very minimal contribution of tax contribution, so to speak, to the coffers of the government is because a lot of the businesses that we know today actually are domiciled in the informal sector. Do you think that there's a correlation with that, as a matter of fact?
Yes, I do. Thanks for the question. I think that the informal sector in Nigeria is largely untaxed. So what we see is a situation where the tax authorities keep going back to the same people who are already in the tax net and keep like
hammering them with larger percentage after case may be.
And the concern is, why don't you go to the informal sector? There are a lot of people in the informal sector. If you were to concentrate all your energies like you do for those who are already in the tax net on those who are not in the tax net, what you would find is that you would widen the tax base, and so you would get more money, and then we can even be looking at increasing the tax contribution to GDP from 6% to double figures. So there's a huge informal market that still needs to be tapped by the tax authorities if we're going to make any traction on increasing the tax contribution.
Yeah, but then again, when it has to also do with the former players themselves, I mean, it looks like the more people get impression, and please pardon me, that the more you want to do right in this climb, the more it seems you end up being a victim of the system. I don't know how true that can be defended, but the fact still remains is that a lot of the businesses who actually try as much as they can to pay their taxes actually become victims of multiple taxation. How do you see that benefiting the businesses as well as the government, where there is so many taxes at different levels, and then we obviously are not going to have a society where the tax GDP ratio is going to obviously grow in the next few years?
Okay. I'm sad to say that I agree with you on the fact that it looks like the companies who are predominantly tax compliant keep getting punished for doing the right things.
True.
Yeah, so I hear people say to me, why should I register? The people that don't register, so let's say individuals, for example, I suffer tax of between 19% to 24% on my salaries. But I know somebody who works in an organization where they don't deduct tax on her income, and she goes home with 100%, and I go home with maybe 80%. So why? You're punishing me for doing the right thing. Yeah, my employer is punishing me because he's choosing to do the right thing. So that's what it looks like. And then when you even talk about multiple taxation, the way the national tax policy document words it, in my view, is restrictive, because the national tax policy document gives the impression that multiple tax would only occur where the same kind of tax by the same name is being imposed by different tiers of government. Like I said, I think that's restrictive, because in my view, multiple tax is also where you're assessing the same tax base to revenue more than once. So for example, for a company's revenue, is assessed to companies' income tax, is assessed to tertiary education tax, is assessed to NITDA levy, is assessed to NCD levy. That's multiple taxation, if you ask me. You also have situations where, especially local governments, come from nowhere and they're imposing taxes that are not even in
those taxes, because they say they are just levies.
They're levies. No, okay. You know, there is an act, Approved Tax and Levies Collection Act, where it highlights the taxes that are due to each tier of government.
Okay. So
recently, one of my clients got a letter from the Surulere local government, for example, and they were asking them to pay a shop levy. We looked through that act, and there was nothing like shop levy in there. And then they sent us a Lagos State public notice saying that they could do that. As far as I'm concerned, that's illegal. And so that would also qualify as multiple taxes. And then you also look at situations where taxes that are similar are being assessed. So for example, you have the value-added tax and the sales tax, or value-added tax and consumption tax. They are the same thing. The only difference being that they are assessed by different tiers of government. FRS assesses VAT, and then the state authorities assess consumption tax or sales tax, but they are still the same thing. Because value-added tax is on supply of goods and services, sales tax is on supply of goods and services, consumption tax is on supply of goods and services. The only difference is that consumption tax is limited to hotels, restaurants, and event centers. But the essence is still the same. So I think that what's in the tax policy document is a bit restrictive, and that the examples I have given would also qualify as multiple taxation. And you had asked about the impact of that on the economy. I think that what it does is disincentivize investors. Because when investors want to come into a country, they do their simulations and say, okay, from what I know about Nigeria's tax laws, I'm going to bear this, and then they run their numbers. And then they run the numbers maybe for Ghana also, run the numbers for these countries. I'm stating, you know, I'm an oil and gas.
Yes, no, it's all right.
Yeah, so my examples will be
yes,
oil and gas related. Yeah, so they run the numbers for Angola, run the numbers for Ghana, run the numbers, and then they wonder, why really should I come to Nigeria? And then you even, for oil and gas companies, what even makes it worse is the fact that they have to pay regular dues to the communities in which they operate. If they don't, they stand the risk of their assets being vandalized or not even being able to work at all. So all of those things, there's no law that says that you have to do that. But you as a businessman will say, do I want to do the right thing and suffer and let my business suffer for it? So it's a difficult place for investors in Nigeria.
EDEMEME, we're going to go on a short break. You'll be amazed how time flies on television. Well, viewers, we're just discussing the topic multiple taxation. And I know this is a topic that a lot of us who are business owners and entrepreneurs are very particular about. And right now in the studio, we want to take this even further. But we're going on this short break, and when we are back, the conversation continues.
Experience unlimited super-fast internet access from Entel 4G.
Entel. Live more.
All right, thank you very much for joining us still. This is Business Matters, Nigeria's leading business platform for everything business. And joining me in the studio is no other person than Mrs. EDEMEME Oladiji WUSU, a senior manager at the KPMG company. And here we are discussing multiple taxation and enabling business environment. EDEMEME, before we went on a short break, we were talking about the ranking, the percentage, and we looked at enabling business policy, which the government actually brought about in terms of their initiative to make sure that at least the business processes are well synchronized, so that people don't take, you don't go through the Herculean task of trying to register a company and then get your papers ready as well as that. But how do you see the latest in terms of when a new business wants to start up? and you go and register at the CAC, automatically you're given a tax identification number. Does that not, in a way, seem oppressive? Is it the right way to go?
I think that it is. I don't see how it's oppressive.
Okay.
Because before now, any company that registers would also register with the FIRS. So I don't see how that is oppressive. I think it's the tax is the government's way of expanding the tax base. You recall that when I spoke earlier, I said that the informal sector is significantly out of the tax net
bracket.
Exactly. So they want companies that come in to come straight into the tax.
But the informal sector, obviously, where you have a lot of the traders, people who actually run very small micro businesses, as a matter of fact, we tell you that they pay taxes in one form or the other. I mean, they pay levies. If you go to a particular area, they will tell you, they will show you all kinds of receipts. And all of those receipts are not tenable for them to actually say that they are taxpayers?
Well, I think that they will be tenable. So I recall that many years ago, I used to stay at Ikeja. I would see LIRS officials assess the market women to tax in exchange for helping them keep their books. Yeah, I thought that was a value-adding relationship. And I think that would qualify as tax.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's a levy, as you mentioned, that is being imposed, whether you benefit directly. Like I tell people, when you see the infrastructural development going on, as a matter of fact, you are inspired to say, okay, if we can do this with the little I've done, I will make sure my tax filings are actually done. But in terms of tax compliance, the FIRS as well as LIRS, we are in Lagos right now, have actually brought about an ease of filing, which is the A-filing. A lot of people still feel that the e-filing system is not very, very seamless. And then where exactly does the tax consultant come in helping businesses who still want to be tax compliant, actually leverage on that?
Okay. First, I think it's a good thing that the government is going digital.
Great.
Yeah, because one of the things that the ease of doing business measures is how much time does it take to be tax compliant? What's the total tax that you're paying? So, in fact, if I look at Nigeria as a whole, I think that it takes a lot of time to be tax compliant. So your VAT, you're doing it every month. So 12 times a year you have to do VAT, 12 times a year you have to do withholding tax. You have to do your company's income tax returns once a year. And I think that that's a lot. And then in between all of this, you're going to have audits by the FIRS, by the Lagos State government, by the River State government, depending on how many states you have operations in, and all of that. So I think it's a lot of time. Now, the good thing about digitalization is with the click of a button, you have all of that done. So you're not considering, oh, my staff is going to file the returns, you'll likely be stuck in traffic, he may be gone for half day. Your staff is now going to do all of that from the office. And then there's also some kind of integrity that comes with digitalization, because you're not having face-to-face interactions with tax authorities. Yeah, so you're more likely to believe that your money is not going to be. Yeah.
No, in a situation where I feel I'm a small-scale business owner and I feel I'm suffering multi-taxation, and definitely it's eating into my profit, I perhaps may not be able to even operate in the next few years. What kind of alleviation can I look forward to?
Okay. It's a good thing you brought that up, because there was a study I read that showed that 80% of SMEs in Nigeria don't go past the first 5 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one thing that the Finance Act has done is give tax relief to small companies. And the Finance Act defines small companies as companies with a annual turnover of 25 million naira or less. So if you fall within that bracket, you don't pay any tax.
Seriously?
No, you don't pay companies income tax and you don't pay value-added tax.
Okay, but obviously you pay, the payee obviously might be part of it. You pay your own personal income tax,
of course.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's good to know, because, if a business is struggling, 25 million is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and some businesses don't even have that even in stock. I oftentimes tell my producer and a lot of people who actually meet me up at different conferences, I say, we can never talk enough about taxation.
We can't.
However, we must recognize that taxes are very important, because without them, we won't be able to build a better infrastructure in a society, which can obviously aid our business engagement. But I know you You are somebody who obviously is into tax training as well. You're into career development and all that. How important is that, especially when it has to do with certain compliances and how efficient a staff in an organization can be?
I'll answer that in two parts. The first part being tax training. I think it's important for companies to realize, because what we've seen over the years is that sometimes companies are more interested in the commercials that they forget that tax also has an impact. So the owner of the business is more interested in getting clients, prospecting and all of that they forget your people are also important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in terms of tax training, I think it's important for companies to ensure that especially their finance and tax professionals are trained. The Nigerian tax system is evolving. The evolution that Nigerian tax system has experienced in the last 5 years, from where I sit, is a lot more than we have experienced in the last 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, because companies have been going to court, tax authorities have been going to court, we've been getting court interpretations on several issues. And when a court rules on something, then that becomes the law. Yeah, so if you don't know, for example, if you don't know that a court has ruled on this, or if you don't know that the Finance Act, we've had 2 Finance Acts now back to back, 2019 and 2020.
Yeah.
If you don't know what has changed, then you're doing yourself a disservice, because if your staff are not properly trained to be abreast of all the things that are happening in the tax space, then your business is going to suffer for it, because the tax authorities would come for an audit and then find that you didn't do what you should have done. Owners of businesses need to realize that when you pay for your staff to be trained on tax, you're not wasting money.
You're not.
You're actually saving money, and the returns, the ROI, are significantly more than the amount that you're going to pay. Because it's not enough to know what has changed. You also need to know how it impacts your business, so that you need to know, okay, do I begin to structure my contract? Do I need to begin to what do I need to begin to do? How do I even ensure that I'm optimizing my taxes? Because that's also important. Okay, so the second one I was going to talk about in terms of general training, I think it's important for companies to invest in their people. When you invest in your people, you're helping them be better. And when a person is better, I don't know if you've realized it, but when you know better, it automatically translates in you doing better.
Absolutely.
So you're training your people in presentation skills. When your people become good presenters, for example, you don't need to attend every single proposal meeting, because you have already trained people in your image. So at the end of the day, I think that business owners need to realize that their responsibility is more strategic than operational. I think that for the most part, they focus on operational. Oh, so what are we doing today? What are we doing? You can train your people to become leaders, and they focus on the operational part, while you can focus on the strategic. What do I need to do today to ensure that this company is here in the next 5 years? Who should I be talking to today to ensure that my company has a revenue of XYZ in the next 10 years? That's what you should be thinking about as a business owner. But if you don't train your people now, you will keep working on the operational level, and that's not good for your business.
All right, that's the word I'm going to take. What am I supposed to be doing today to get to this place in the next 5 years? Thank you so very much, Mrs. EDEMEME. This has been an amazing engagement. Just like I always say on television, time flies like that. I hope in the future, definitely we are going to have you back again, because tax is a subject that is very dear to our heart. We want the businesses who listen to us to pay taxes, and we want to make sure that the government in turn uses the taxes judiciously. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
Viewers, there's so much we can take on this segment. And remember, taxation is very important. Pay your tax, but at the same time, make sure that you demand for the benefits which your taxes definitely offers. Our business matter is going to continue after this moment. Please stay tuned, and I'll be back. Multiple taxation in this day and age is one thing that we need to address, and we believe that the agencies and regulators, that is their responsibility, will ensure that they are able to work with those who pay taxes to see that they do not certainly renegade. However, we need to expand the tax bracket to also include the informal sector. One way or the other, we will be able to put our hands together to make this country great for every one of us. And one of the ways we can do that is also by training our citizens, training our employees, and making sure we expose them to the latest trends, information, and knowledge that can help them perform well. Taxes are important, but certainly taxes must be done in a light that can help the business also succeed. This is so much we can bring to you on Business Matters. Please do follow us on all our social media platforms as well as our website, where you can get more information about our different programs. My name is Stephen Ipalabo Lawson. Bye-bye for now.